like and subscribe, and leave a comment below. Operation Humanity Strikes Back. The deafening roar of explosions and the acrid smell of smoke filled the air as Captain B.N.Rocker ducked into the foxhole, narrowly avoiding a hail of alien gunfire. Earth's survival hinged on this mission, their first strike back at the alien invaders on their home turf. The stakes were unimaginable, and failure was not an option. "Stay low and keep moving," Rocker barked beside him, his squad huddled around him. Private Jackson, the medic, was trying to stop his hands from shaking as he checked his supplies. Sergeant Harris, a mountain of a man with a heart just as big, clutched his heavy weapon, ready to unleash hell at a moment's notice. Corporal Samuels, their tech-savvy communications officer, was fiddling with a device, cursing under his breath. "Damned interference," Samuels muttered, glancing up at Rocker. "I can't get a signal through this mess, Captain." Rocker nodded. "We'll make do. We're not leaving anyone behind." Suddenly, a fresh wave of artillery fire erupted around them, shaking the ground and sending debris flying. Jackson yelped as a piece of shrapnel tore through his leg, with blood spurting from the wound. "Medic down," Harris shouted, moving to shield Jackson with his massive frame. "We need to get him to cover." "I'm fine," Jackson gritted out. "It's just a scratch." "We'll get you patched up," Rocker assured him as he ripped open a med stim pack. "Stay with us." As Rocker applied pressure to Jackson's wound, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. It was the calm before the storm, and they all knew it. "Harris, light him up," Rocker commanded. Harris didn't need to be told twice. He unleashed a torrent of gunfire, mowing down the first wave of alien soldiers. Samuels, finally getting his comm device to function, managed to get a few garbled words through to command. "Captain, they're saying there's one dropship still operational," Samuels reported, "but it's a hell of a run from here." "Then we run," Rocker replied. "Move out." The squad scrambled from their foxhole, dodging enemy fire as they made a break for the dropship. The ground was a minefield of craters and debris, making every step a potential death trap. Just as they reached a relatively clear path, a plasma bolt struck Harris in the shoulder, spinning him around and dropping him to one knee. "Keep going," Harris roared, firing his weapon one-handed. "I'll cover you." "No man left behind," Rocker growled, hauling Harris to his feet. "We all get out of this, or none of us do." They pressed on, Rocker and Jackson supporting Harris while Samuels laid down suppressive fire. The dropship loomed ahead, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos, but the alien forces weren't about to let them go without a fight. As they neared the dropship, an alien commander stepped into their path, flanked by heavily armed soldiers. The squad froze. "Rocker," Samuels whispered, "I've got an idea." "Make it quick," Rocker replied. Samuels pulled out a small device from his pack, an EMP grenade. "This should give us a few seconds. On my mark." Samuels tossed the grenade, and a burst of energy knocked out the alien soldiers' weapons and sensors. The squad took advantage of the confusion, charging forward. Rocker tackled the alien commander. A brutal hand-to-hand struggle ensued. "Go! Get to the ship!" Rocker shouted, fighting off the commander with sheer determination. Harris, despite his injury, covered Jackson and Samuels as they sprinted to the dropship. Jackson, hobbling on his injured leg, managed to reach the ship's ramp, collapsing with relief as Samuels helped him inside. Harris followed, firing at any alien that dared approach. Rocker, bruised and bloodied, finally overpowered the alien commander, grabbing a large rock and finishing the fight. He sprinted to the dropship, leaping inside just as the engines roared to life. "Punch it," Rocker yelled, slamming the hatch shut behind him. The dropship lifted off, shaking violently as it ascended through the atmosphere. The alien forces continued to fire, but the ship's shields held. Rocker collapsed into a seat, breathing heavily. "We made it," he said. Harris, while clutching his wounded shoulder, grinned. "Damn right we did." Jackson, pale but alive, nodded. "Told you it was just a scratch." Samuels, battered but smiling, added, "You still owe me that drink, Captain." Rocker laughed, with the tension finally breaking. "States, drinks are on me once we get back." As the dropship approached the safety of the orbital fleet, Rocker looked at his team. They had faced the impossible and survived. Together, They had shown what true courage and camaraderie looked like. The dropship docked, and medics rushed to meet them, quickly assessing their injuries and providing much-needed aid. Rocker allowed himself to be led away, glancing back at his squad with pride. "This is just the beginning," Rocker said quietly. "We'll revenge our fallen, one battle at a time." This attack had shown them the true cost of war, and they were ready to pay it. One battle at a time, they would reclaim their colonies and ensure the survival of humanity. The interior lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the exhausted faces of the soldiers. Rocker leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment, allowing the adrenaline to slowly ebb away. He could hear the muffled voices of the medics, the clattering of equipment, and the faint hum of the ship's life support systems. Just then, an announcement over the intercom rang out. "From the fleet commander, welcome back. You left as soldiers and returned as heroes. You proved today you are Earth's finest." Rocker smiled wearily, opening his eyes to see Harris, Jackson, and Samuels being attended to by the medics. Jackson's leg had been properly bandaged and Harris's shoulder was being treated. Samuels, with a few stitches in his side, was already trying to charm the nurse tending to him. "You really think you can drink on duty, Samuels?" Rocker teased, getting up slowly and walking over to his men. "Only if the captain approves," Samuels replied with a grin, wincing slightly as the nurse tightened the bandage. "All right, enough of that," Rocker said, shaking his head with a chuckle. "We'll have time for that later. Right now, we need to debrief and get some rest. We've got a lot of work ahead of us." A high-ranking officer approached, her uniform pristine. "Captain Rocker, I'm Major Lin. Command wants a full debrief ASAP." "Understood, Major," Rocker replied, nodding. "Just give us a few minutes to get cleaned up." "Of course," Major Lin said, with her stern expression softening slightly. "Good work out there, all of you. You did us proud." As Rocker and his men made their way to the debriefing room, they passed by rows of injured soldiers, some in far worse shape than Jackson or Harris. The reality of the war hit hard, but it also fueled their determination. They weren't just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for every person in that hangar and for all of humanity throughout the cosmos. The debriefing room was stark and utilitarian. A holographic display lit up the center of the room, showing the planet and the positions of both human and alien forces. "Take a seat," Major Lin instructed, motioning to the chairs around the table. "We need to understand exactly what happened down there." "We encountered heavy resistance," Rocker concluded. "Casualties were high, but we retrieved the object you requested." Major Lin nodded, with her fingers tapping on the edge of the table. "Your actions were commendable, Captain. With this, the tide of war will dramatically shift in our favor. Today is a new dawn for humanity, thanks to you and your band of heroes." Captain Rocker and his men stood tall. As they walked out of the debriefing room, they knew the battle for Earth was far from over. But with leaders like Rocker at the helm, victory seemed within reach. Together, they would reclaim their colonies, one battle at a time, forging a future where humanity would not just survive, but thrive. This is not goodbye, nor the end. Until the story continues, my friends. B.N.Rocker.